Wow, thank you, Hashem. Yay.
Can I share something with the class before we start?
Yeah, can we just have Regina go first? I'm so sorry. She
Okay.
wanted
It's okay.
to
It's
go.
okay.
Okay, and you can go next, Vanessa. I can't wait to
Okay.
hear what you have to share.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Regina.
So, thank you. Hi everyone. Last time I shared that I injured my left ankle and I had to take a week off from work last week. So today I returned to work full day and two of my cases got canceled. And I was thinking, and what I usually do, I push my last cases to the cancel time. Usually that's what I do. And I was like trying to do it, and it didn't happen with one slot, and the second time slot didn't happen. And I was like, you know what? I was passing by Starbucks and I said, I'm not going to take anyone. I'm just going to go and have a cup of coffee and just spend time with myself. And I'm in the other group doing a Hitba Dedut challenge. And I said, that's it. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a cup of coffee and do the challenge. And usually I'm very stressed on Monday because I'm kind of like scheduling my whole week and planning my whole week. And, you know, it kind of adds to the stress. And till now, it's what, 9:30? I am so patient with the kids, with my husband too, and with myself as well. I didn't yell this evening at the kids because I'm a yeller, unfortunately, and really working hard on that.
Change the
So,
self-fulfilling prophecy. I am a calm mother.
right. Basically, the self-care and the fact that, you know, I know that this ankle thing is for me to slow down physically, not to kind of push myself to the limit like that, was a reminder today not to really schedule that canceled patient's time at all. So, and spend time with myself. So I really, you know, appreciated and was grateful for that
Because
opportunity.
where does our parnasa come from? Where does our money come from? And you know, by Rosh Hashanah, Hashem already, you know, sets a certain amount of parnasa for us, right? And so we think we have this illusion that if I work harder, I'm gonna get more money. But we could work less, but we're still gonna make that money. And when we
Right.
trust Hashem, that Hashem, I'm taking care of your neshama, your vessel. I'm showing up for your children that you gifted me. You know, I'm being a calm, happier wife for my husband. And then Hashem opens that up for us. And we, you know, we're not here, especially as women, to work hard. Like we're still gonna get the money because Hashem said this year you're gonna make $500,000, whatever amount that he put aside for you. You know, thinking that we need to work harder to make more money is just an illusion. It's the illusion of the ego. It's
Right.
not trusting. It's going into fear instead of going into faith. So the moment we come back into faith, we're much calmer, more relaxed, and our bills are paid and our needs are met. I'm talking to you and I'm talking to myself also because, you know, I also work on per diem with cases, and it's like if I do a case, then I get paid. If I didn't do my case,
Right.
then I don't get paid. So I
Same thing
hear you.
here.
And it's very easy to get lost in that. Like, let me go to work earlier, let me stay later because, you know, I need to make the money. And I totally like I hear you on a very deep level with that. Like if you have a salary, it's a different case. You know, you have your sick days, whatever, it's a little bit different. But here it's like getting those gold stars. Like how many gold stars
Mhm.
can I get today? How many hours can I work today? Because every hour that I put in, it's you know, it's cash in my account. So it's very easy to get lost in that illusion.
Yeah, and another thing I noticed that just overall, I think my husband was a little bit more attracted to me and really glad to see me and actually initiated conversation with me because lately we're like, you know, not in a great whatever it is. But today was a little bit, I guess I gave off that vibe with a
Your
smile and
changed.
right. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's true how they say the woman sets the tone in a house. Very true.
Yeah, he didn't have to. When our men don't feel like they have to defend themselves against us, all they want to do is make us happy. You know,
Right.
they're attracted to us. We're a magnet. Whenever we're like happy and smiling, imagine like my energy,
Right.
or
Right.
like which one
Runs
which
away
one do
from
you
that
want to
face
be?
when I do
Right?
it.
Because they're like right away, like she's
Right.
just gonna tell me how wrong I am. Let me run away as far as away.
Right.
And then, and if I'm
Exactly.
like, hey honey, how you
And he
doing? Like,
also, we usually, when things are good, we usually have like a cup of tea after dinner. And he, lately it was like on and off. And today he was making like a whole teapot for us to have a tea. And I'm like, oops, I'm sorry, I have a meeting. I'll come back to you and have tea with you after the meeting.
yeah. Yeah,
So
but you
yeah.
see how you did it with like a very light, like girl of fun and light energy. It wasn't
Right.
like, you know, I can't, I have to go. Like, no explanation.
Yeah.
There's a way to get what we want, but to do it with like a light energy. Just check in, like, how am I feeling? Am I feeling light or am I feeling heavy? Like, what am I giving off? Because when I feel heavy, I'm giving off that heavy vibe. When I feel light, like we're a magnet for everything that we want.
So I really see what you're saying, and it's very true. And for me right now, I'm in that state where I have to think about it to really be that way. It's not natural, you know?
Can I
So
tell
I
you
get
something
why.
that I told my friend today? If we want a life above nature, we must go above our nature. If
Mhm.
I have a habit of showing up a certain way, if something is natural to me, I'm just gonna keep creating the same life. But if I go above my nature, if my nature is, if somebody triggers me, is to react, if I'm gonna keep being in that state, then I'm just gonna keep having the same, I'm gonna be stuck in the
Right.
same cycle. But if I go above my nature, if I'm gonna say, stop, pause, take a breath, how do I want to respond? Like I just learned, I was learning the Kabbalah from David Guillaume. I really got into that. Somebody shared his class, and I'm like, I need to learn more. I love the way he teaches. His way of teaching is like pause and what a pleasure. What does that mean? Then it means that whatever trigger is coming up for me, when I pause and I say, what a pleasure, I'm elevating it. I'm going above nature, meaning like, not that the experience is pleasurable, the experience sucks, but it's like, if I can go above nature, instead of reacting, I could bring myself back. I elevate myself above my nature, and I become a magnet for miracles. It's like a very high way of showing up in life, but meaning like if something um negative is happening in my environment, it's there to elevate me so that I can choose to show up above my nature, to show up differently than I usually do.
Right. Well,
It's a
but
test.
here's my question now. Is it a state of fake it till you make it if it's not your natural character
A
trait?
100%, a hundred
Okay.
percent. Fake it till you make it. It's gonna feel very uncomfortable because stepping out of your comfort zone, stepping out of your nature, it's above nature. It's gonna be, if it feels uncomfortable, you're on the right track.
Hmm.
It's gonna, because growth, there's resistance, right? Like when we build a muscle, it's painful,
Right. Right.
right? In essence, I'm so sorry. I know I want to hear what
Okay,
you have to say.
I'm
It's just
waiting. I'm waiting. It's okay.
conversation just
I'm
got very
done.
direct.
Sorry.
Okay.
But yeah, if it feels uncomfortable, it means that you're breaking through, that you're growing that muscle. This discomfort is a sign of growth. So yeah. All right, honey, go ahead. Share what you want to share.
So two things I'm gonna share, and I'm gonna make it quick. After our first call, I right away found podcasts on Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, they have podcasts there. They have free podcasts on Audible. They also have a whole YouTube channel with this book writer who wrote this book,
Laura
Empowering.
Doyle.
Yeah. So if you're interested, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. She says a lot of fascinating things and on a lot of things if you want to kind of get ahead and get um more what's it called into this whole thing and understand this better. And I also wanted to say, like, I had an incident this weekend during the holidays where, like, I'm a very impatient person. I'm more of the fire one in my relationship. My husband is more of the passive one, more of the quiet one, more of the patient one. So he's like the kind of person where he's not very considerate of another person's time schedule. He'll just be like, oh, I got stuck, or I'm late, or I got caught up, and he'll never let you know. So we this morning went to his family for the weekend of Purim. So I told him, I said, should I take my own car? He's like, no, you don't need to take your own car. We'll go with my car, and you don't need your own car. So he had stuff to take care of when we got to his family's house. He left me there with no car. He said, I'm going to be back in an hour. So obviously he was not back in an hour. I was there stuck waiting. And I kind of got really angry, and I came up to him and I'm like, it's like 3 o'clock. I want to get out of here. Let's go. And he kind of felt like I was being the boss in front of everybody, putting him down. So that's where he yelled at me in front of everybody and kind of attacked me. So what I did was I followed, I think, what you mentioned, where you have to mention it to them like, hey, I'm sorry, I put you down in front of everyone. It was not my initiative to put you down, but also you're not considerate of my time, considering the fact that you didn't let me take my car. You told
So
me
right. So the way that you would say it is you state your desire, because underneath every complaint, a complaint is basically a lazy desire. So what did you want in that instance? You wanted
on time.
to be somewhere on time. So like I would call him and say, I really want to be there on time. You know, I would really love to be at the party on time, like very in the easy way. I would really love to be, you know, because sometimes they have it's life happens. I'm sure he didn't do it out of spite to you know to he was busy. Life happens. Sometimes, you know, we're late, they're late. It happens. And also seeing his heart message, like he showed up at any situation. We could either escalate it to become worse, you know,
or better,
to add darkness, or we could elevate it to make light. So so just whenever we're in that state, like, what do I want? How do I feel? What do I need? Like, okay, I feel angry because your value is to be on time, and your boundary was being crossed. And okay, obviously your body is letting you know I have a boundary and my boundary is being crossed. So it's totally, you know, valid for you to feel that way.
But when I blew up, I said, you didn't let me take my car. I listened to you and I ended up being late.
Right. So but do you hear how you said you in that sentence? So the minute you say you know what happens to him? Everything that you want to communicate, a wall goes up and he's not here. All he's hearing is, I'm being, she's coming at me with swords. Exactly. I need a guard up. And he's in defense mode. There's no community. Like, I know that you want him to hear you, but he's not able to hear you. All that's happening for him is he's going into survival mode, and I need to like protect and defend myself. I can't make her happy because I'm busy protecting and defending. I want to keep it an I. I feel upset, and I'll take care of my feelings are mine. Like, you're not responsible for my feelings. I feel upset because I wanted to be on time. And I would love for us to get in the car and go.
Got it. But then he apologized to me. I made him feel guilty because he embarrassed me in front of everybody. He sort of like yelled at me in front of everybody. There was a table full of people. He did apologize to me. I did explain to him that you do not embarrass somebody like this. I never yell at you in front of everybody. Why would you yell at me?
So so the empowered wife way would be but meaning like just record before you talk to him, kind of record yourself and just see what your energy is like. Because when our energy is under neutral, it's neutral, and then it goes, you know, loving, caring, like high. If it's under neutral, if it's like angry, resentful, like we don't want, because he's not really going to get the message. Even if he's going to say I'm sorry to, he's saying it just to like kind of shut you up.
Just shut me up.
It's not coming. It's not going to give you, what do you really want? You want intimacy. You want to have that closeness and connection, and for him to want to make you happy, right? And he wants to give you that. But when there's that attacking, it's impossible. Like you're not receiving, and he's not able to give because you're closed up.
Yeah.
You know, but which is okay. You just got on this journey. You're totally, you know, you're a human being, and this is the process. But it's good that we're having this conversation because I'm sure a lot of people could relate to you. I could relate to you.
Yeah. Thank
you
you.
know, and I mess up all day long. But I just know how to correct myself. I know how to do that teshuvah. Teshuvah is like returning to who I want to be. And I want to be a woman in integrity, and I want to have intimacy with my husband, just like everyone who's here. Right?
Got it.
Yeah. So the more you do the work, the more you practice these skills, the easier it's gonna get. It's like a muscle, and it feels uncomfortable. It feels uncomfortable. Instead of telling him off, to say, in the situation when I feel hurt, to say ouch.
What feels uncomfortable is kind of, even though it's your husband, what feels uncomfortable is coming onto your husband, initiating intimacy. Like,
Who said that you need to initiate intimacy?
I'm just saying, like, that's what's uncomfortable. Like,
That
you know
you
how
have
sometimes,
you're like, I have to change myself.
yeah, like, you know how sometimes your guy wants you to come on to him or to give him signals or to kind of
So
sometimes,
this is exactly the lesson that we're learning today. It's about revealing your vulnerable heart.
yeah, like, and like my husband told me that I want you to like to give me signals because I kind of have my guard up and I'm always like,
Because
you're,
you're more in your masculine. You have a guard up because you don't trust him. So I promise you, all of this. Imagine it's like right now it's like ice because this is all new for you. But the more you practice, it's like that ice dissolves, dissolves, dissolves,
yeah,
and it
but
gets
is it okay
really.
to come on to them yourself to make the
If
first
it
move?
if it if it if it brings intimacy, why not? Like I always say, if you've been doing the same thing, expecting different results, if you're doing the same thing, you're gonna have the same results. Try something else,
Something different.
experiment, just try. Be like, you know what? Let me experiment with trying to, initiate things. Let's see what happens. Is it gonna
Yeah.
bring us more intimacy? It doesn't mean that you have to do it every single time, but just experiment. Let me try something different. Let's see if it gets me different results in my relationship. Let's see if doing things in a different way gets me more intimacy, gets me more of what I want.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. So, okay, ladies, any more wins? All right. So I'm just going to ask you all to mute yourself, and we're going to go into skill number 5. Wow, we're like up to the almost number 5, and then 6 is the last skill. I can't believe it. We're almost to the finish line. It feels bittersweet. All right, skill number 5, reveal your heart with vulnerability. If what you want is intimacy, you must be vulnerable. It feels risky, and it is. You'll know when you're being vulnerable because part of you
I'm
will
sorry,
resist.
what page are we on?
Oh, 195.
Chapter?
It's skill number 5. It's right before chapter 19. Okay. You'll know when you're being vulnerable because a part of you will resist. Maybe you'll want to hold back your tears or pretend you weren't disappointed or that you don't need help. Memorize that feeling and bravely walk into it as much as you can, because that's where the magic is. When we feel that resistance, when we feel that discomfort, walk right into it, because that's where the magic is. That's where the transformation is. If we want to transform darkness into light, we must be able to face the darkness. What's the only way to transform darkness into light? There can be light and darkness at the same time. When there's darkness, we come in there, we switch on the light, and that's it. It's light, right? But we must be willing to enter into that dark room to switch on the light. So that's the discomfort. It's like, I'm going to try this new thing. I'm going to experiment. I'm going to try to do things a different way. That's when we turn on that light and we get rid of the darkness. Vulnerability is not only attractive, it's when you get that incredible, indescribable feeling of being loved just the way you are by someone who knows you well. It's this ability to completely open our hearts and show our husbands like our real self without feeling like I can't cry next to him, or sometimes we cry to kind of get their attention, but not for that reason. To cry to really get like, if I'm really feeling like sad, it's okay to be sad in that moment and to let him know, I just need this moment for me. That's being vulnerable. It has nothing to do with him needing to fix me. But I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling right now, and that's okay. It's letting him know I feel angry right now. It has nothing to do with you. I'm allowed to, and I know how to take care of my feeling. There's nothing quite like it, and it really is worth risking everything to have it. Vulnerability is not the same as weakness. It actually takes much more strength and courage to risk emotionally than it does to stay defended. Sometimes we don't even know we're defended. We just know that what it would feel uncomfortable to admit we don't know what someone is talking about, or to say we're lonely. That's because it would make us vulnerable. Prescription: to practice being vulnerable, start by admitting that you're hurt instead of defending yourself. So in Anessa's example, if she would have said, you know, you came late and I'm hurt, it's my feeling, I'm hurt, because what did I want? I wanted to be on time, and I'm hurt that we're going late. So that's being vulnerable. It's not you this or you that. It's getting in touch with my emotions and sharing how I feel with my husband, instead of saying, you know, you this and you that and you that, because whatever trigger is coming up, the trigger is letting us know that I have a wound inside of me, and the trigger is there so that I'm aware of it, so that I know that, okay, I need to heal this wound. I need to let go of this wound that I have inside of me. And how do we let go of it? Instead of reacting, responding. And every time there's that trigger and we respond, and it gets lighter and lighter and lighter until it's gone. And this is how our neshamot came into this world, to do a tikkun. And we all have a different tikkun. And how do we know what our tikkun is? It's those things that trigger us. That this is why our neshama came into this world, to elevate that emotion. You know, if my emotion is I feel disrespected, and every time someone on the outside disrespects me, it's not them. Hashem, they are a messenger of Hashem sent for me to elevate my neshama. And whatever we resist persists. So if I resist growing from this, it's going to keep coming into my life, keep being a part of my experience. It's going to be my mother-in-law. It's going to be, you know, on a neshama state, the people who are the most challenging in your life on a neshama state, they are your best friends. And they're saying, I'm going to come into this life and I'm going to be the most challenging person in your life, because I'm going to push you to grow. So whenever you see that person, just see their neshama and see them. Hashem sent them for me, for my growth. And every time I don't react, but I say, you know, I pause and I respond. And like David Guillaume says, it's a pleasure, because when that challenging situation happens, it's happening for me. And when I say it's a pleasure, I elevate it, and I elevate my neshama. And every time that challenging situation comes and I come with it with pause, and it's a pleasure, it's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller until we're going to go above it. We're going to go above our nature. And that's when we're going to attract miracles into our life. I hope what I said, I hope you all can relate to what I just said. Let me know if it's not clear. So to practice being vulnerable, start by admitting that you're hurt instead of defending yourself. Instead of saying, you hurt my feelings, try nothing but ouch. Instead of saying, you're never home, say, I miss you. Instead of trying to do it all, when you're overwhelmed, say, I can't, or I need help. Instead of trying to figure everything out yourself, ask for advice when you're not sure what to do. What made your man fall for you and still melts him every time? Vulnerability sounds like truth and feels like courage. Truth and courage aren't always comfortable, but they're never a weakness. This is from Brené Brown. Intimacy requires courage. My experience has been that to have the intimacy I crave, I need to relax into situations that I find terrifying, where everything in me wants to fight or run. I used to think that someday I wouldn't be vulnerable at all. But just the opposite has proven to be true. The comfort I found around being vulnerable is that it feels more familiar now than it used to. I've also acquired a taste for the intimacy, connection, and love that's on the other side of giving up my defenses. So today, I strive to be vulnerable as much as I can. Recently, I was watching the movie The King's Speech at home by myself. It made me cry. John came home right in the middle of a very dramatic scene, and my first instinct was to try to compose myself so that he wouldn't know I was a big pile of mush. I was fumbling to pause the movie when he came over and said, "How are you, cutie?" I knew if I responded, I would lose it, so I tried to compose myself silently. How many of us are afraid to cry or feel like, oh, I have to be strong? It's so, first of all, it's so healthy for our kids to see us crying because it gives them permission to feel older feelings and to be okay with being human. You know, if we're only showing up as like, I have to be the strong rock, our kids learn to be afraid of their feelings. They're like, oh, I have to be this, but we're a human being. We feel all the emotions. And if we teach our children that we can feel our emotions in a healthy way, we're teaching them how to cope with them. You know, they're looking at us and they're learning from us how to show up in this world. Like I noticed ladies in the chat talking about feeling overwhelmed and like, I don't want my kids to see me this way. Let them see you this way. Let them learn how you're coping. You know, you could say, mommy feels very overwhelmed right now, and I'm going to take some deep breaths, and I'm going to go for a walk, and then when I come back, I'll feel better. Like you're teaching them how to regulate their nervous system in a healthy way. Teach them all of your emotions, not just the comfortable ones, especially the uncomfortable ones. It was pretty obvious that I was just a melty snowman on the couch. I didn't want him to know that, but he already knows that about me anyway. He smiled and gave me a tender kiss because he loves my soft side. I know that's how it is with vulnerability. I teach it all the time, but still, my instinct, okay, her nature is to not let anyone see that part of me. But then again, it feels so wonderful to be loved, even when I'm in pieces. When someone sees me, really sees the messy part, the part I don't want them to see, and they respond with tenderness, that's an amazing, indescribable feeling. It's one I want to have as much as I can. You may think, as I once did, that vulnerability is unattractive. I thought it was a weakness since I'm a strong minded, able bodied woman. I didn't ever want to be vulnerable, but I was completely wrong. Home is where the humans are. One of the great common denominators of being human is that we're all vulnerable sometimes. We all experience joy and loss. We all cry and need approval. We all feel embarrassed and long for reassurance. We all judge ourselves and have dark thoughts. Every one of us wants to be loved. When we let those tender parts show, others connect with us because they recognize their own humanity in us and feel at home. Today, I consider my ability to go to that tender place one of my best qualities. When I'm there, I can feel how much affection John has for me and how much he wants to protect me. It's given me a fuller appreciation for the depth of his love. In my better moments, I recognize that my vulnerability is attractive. My husband responds in such a masculine way, and I feel so feminine in return. I now realize that I can enjoy intimacy with my husband only to the degree that I can be vulnerable with him. That means letting my tears come instead of masking my hurt with anger. It means that even when I feel attacked, I put my defenses down and let him see that I'm fragile. It means holding steady even when I realize I could be rejected or abandoned when I'm least prepared for it. When you let down your guard, the truth comes out in an endearing way. You feel incomparable pleasure and joy of being loved just as you are, not for who you think you should be. Intimacy and closeness spring from the relief of admitting you're not at all perfect and finding out that you're still lovable. Intimacy thrives when you know you're safe. That's when you can relax in your own skin and reveal yourself. In fact, your vulnerability is what made your man fall in love with you, fall for you above everyone else. He saw how delicate you are and felt that he could make a contribution by caring for you, comforting you, protecting you. That's what made him want to commit to you forever. I promise you, it still melts him every time he sees your vulnerability. It reminds him of his purpose and the connection he feels. That's a gift you bring to the relationship, the vulnerability that creates your bond. A week before they were scheduled to move, Rachel experienced the magic of triggering her husband's hero gene by being vulnerable. Feeling stressed about how much was still to be done, she told her husband that he needed to hurry up and finish packing his things and then disassemble some furniture in preparation for moving day. But instead of springing into action, her husband seemed distant and irritated. Can you see why? He even suggested she needed some self-care, a nice way of telling her to relax. Exhausted and frustrated, Rachel decided the most urgent and vital thing to do next was to take a bath, which she did. Feeling refreshed afterwards, she apologized for snapping orders at him. So listen, we're just mere mortal women. We're going to, go back into our old patterns. It's okay. Just catch yourself. And we could always use teshuvah. We could always apologize and come back to who we are. And somebody was saying today that, she didn't have time for self-care, or, we can come up with a 1,000 excuses for why we can't do self-care. It's whenever we do give that to ourselves, we love ourselves in that way, we give to ourselves in that way, our time expands. So just notice it. If we can stop and just scroll on the phone for 10 minutes, even if you give yourself 10 minutes, you're investing. The return on that investment is so much greater. So whenever we get stuck in that, I don't have time for self-care, just notice it. It's not you. It's the Yetzer Hara coming in and trying to ruin the rest of the day for you. So just tell the Yetzer Hara to take a hike, and you go for a walk, or do whatever you need to do in that moment so that you can come back to your family relaxed.
Irina?
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? What if you feel like your cup is, what if you do like a little bit of self-care, but you feel like you're still not like okay, because you feel okay for like a few minutes and then again you feel depleted?
Because when you were doing the self-care, you were feeling guilty with it, so you canceled out the self-care.
Or could it be that it just like piled on, like it took a very long time, like I was using my reserve from before?
That's very possible. That's very possible. So you're the expert on your life. You know you more than anybody else. If after you did some self-care, you still feel like, it's like your cell phone is on a low battery. Charging it for 5 minutes is not going to get it to full capacity.
Right.
So you only know how much you need. And you loving yourself and loving your husband and loving your kids is giving to yourself in that moment. There's nothing more you can do for your family than loving yourself in that moment. That's the best investment that you can do in that moment. So if you look at it from that perspective, it might help you.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So she took a bath. She apologized for snapping orders at him and leaned back into being vulnerable. So apologizing is very vulnerable. I'll tell you guys, this is like a challenge for me, stopping and apologizing. But when I do, I see the return on that investment of being vulnerable. I really, really do. She told him how much she was struggling and asked if she could borrow his brain. I'm over my head with this move. I would love to be all packed. So she got in touch with what she wants. Instead of telling him how, what's not working, she's like, how do I feel? What do I need? I feel depleted. I need to take a bath. And then she expressed her desire. I'm over my head with this move. I would love to be all packed, she admitted. Jacob immediately came to her rescue. He packed for 9 hours the next day and said he would arrange for the movers to give her whatever extra help she needed, even if it meant paying more. He was warm and encouraging, which made her feel calmer and less frazzled. They want to make us happy. They want to be our heroes, but they can't do it when they're defending ourselves. When they're defending themselves. Wow, what a difference, Rachel told me. When I'm honest and vulnerable, it's like he can't help me fast enough. If I give him orders, It never gets me what I want. Stop fights with a single word. Another important aspect of expressing your feelings is letting people around you, especially your husband, know when you're hurt. As wonderful as my marriage has been since I discovered the intimacy skills, sometimes my husband still hurts my feelings, right? He's a mere mortal man. And sometimes I hurt his too. He's a great guy and he loves me like crazy, but because we're so close, sometimes I still get hurt. Think of little kids playing together and bruising or scratching each other. From what I hear from thousands of students, including my team of coaches, that's just part of any intimate relationship. Sometimes you accidentally cause each other pain. If we ever get to be perfect, I'll be sure to have a press conference and let you know what it's like. Until then, I'm glad I have the option of saying ouch when I'm hurt. If we ever get, one of the ways I know that I'm hurt is that I'm mad at the person who hurt me. I start to think my husband is a jerk and I want to make him wrong. But underneath that feeling, 100% of the time, I find that I'm hurt. I feel rejected, abandoned, disappointed, insulted, or embarrassed. The hurt is always there underneath my anger. But anger is not great for creating connection and intimacy. So when I've got the wherewithal and the courage, I express my hurt instead of anger. I choose the hurt because it's vulnerable. And I like my chances of snuggling and laughing together when I'm vulnerable. When I express my anger, that's an invitation to an argument that could inflict damage and distance my relationship. That's not where I want to live. Meaning, we're human, we're gonna express anger. There's nothing wrong with anger, but it's also very important to get to the root of the emotion. Anger is like a surface emotion. Under anger, there's more underneath. So just getting in touch, what am I really feeling? Am I feeling hurt? Am I feeling rejected? Am I feeling discouraged? Just noticing. So, okay, I feel rejected. What do I need in this moment? How can I fill myself up? Because if I feel rejected, there's no one else that's going to make me feel accepted. So how can I express my vulnerability? And if I express that emotion, I feel rejected, I'm much more likely to get my needs met and to have that closeness with my husband than expressing my anger towards him, because that's not really going to get me what I want. And there are so many healthy ways to express my emotion. Like I have my days when I just need to beat the crap out of a pillow because there's that energy in my body, and either it's going to be, I'm going to suppress it or I'm going to express it. So journaling is a good way to express those painful emotions. Hitting something like pushing a wall, it's like somatic work, or hitting a pillow just to get that until you feel better. Sometimes that's what we need to do. I'd rather do that and keep my intimacy with my husband than put that energy on him or suppress it inside my body, which is just going to give my body more pain. It's very important to express all emotions, but there's a healthy way to do it and there's an unhealthy way, which breaks our relationships and causes us needless emotional turmoil. So all feelings, all emotions are valid, but it's just knowing how to regulate ourselves and how to give ourselves what we want instead of what we don't want. So when I first decided to respond with my hurt instead of lashing back at my husband in anger and defense, I had a pretty hard time remembering to say ouch in the moment. I kept seeing my opportunities in the rearview mirror once the moment had already passed. Like how many of us were like, oh, I should have done this. I should have done this. That's the power of pause. Whenever we're in the situation, just pause and choose your response instead of reacting on autopilot. That wasn't great, but it was still progress. So even if we're able to see it in a rearview mirror, like saying, oh, I should have done, which it's okay. When we're just starting on this journey, just noticing, you know what, next time, that's how I could have handled it better. So even having that awareness is already a step in the right direction. Eventually, I remembered to say it at the time. And finally, it has become a habit. It wasn't easy, but it's worth it because the connection is so much better afterwards. If I can remind myself that my husband loves me and didn't mean to hurt me, then I have a better chance of responding with vulnerability by saying ouch, or maybe with silence or even tears if they naturally well up. That reminds him that we're on the same team, but lets him know that I feel hurt. It also helps me avoid saying something I might have to apologize for later. I'm not suggesting tears as manipulation here. I'm saying if you're genuinely hurt and are tempted to respond in anger, tears are a better way to be both authentic and vulnerable. When you cry, you're choosing to preserve intimacy and teach your husband how to treat you. You might think, I don't feel hurt when my husband says something mean. I feel angry. Believe me, I know what you mean. But here's what I've discovered. Whenever I'm angry with my husband or anybody else I'm intimate with, I'm also hurt. If I can go to the hurt beneath the anger, I have a better chance of preserving intimacy. So intimacy meaning like a close relationship with your mother, with your father, with your sister, with your co-workers, whoever you're in a close relationship with, there's intimacy there. So intimacy meaning, do you want to stay close? Or all of us want that intimacy, right? So this is a way, like if I'm angry at someone, to look beneath the surface. What's underneath the anger? Okay, I'm feeling hurt. Why am I feeling hurt? Did I feel rejected? Did I like all of these things did I feel disappointed? Did I feel insulted? And is it a pattern in me that I need to clear? Sometimes we have stuff inside of us that's, from childhood. And, just seeing that part of ourselves, like if I feel rejected, seeing that rejected little girl in me and just telling her, I love you and I accept you. So no amount of acceptance from the outside is going to make that part of me feel accepted. I can give her that acceptance. I can see that little girl inside of me and just, I love you and I accept you. And that's how we grow. That's how we elevate in this world, by giving that to ourselves. So much we want it from the outside, but no amount of any of that from the outside is going to heal us on the inside. The healing comes, we are our own healers. Anytime we go to healers or whatever, they're just guiding us to be our own healers. And we can all heal ourselves. We're very powerful like that. If I can go to the hurt beneath the anger, I have a better chance of preserving intimacy. Anger is easier because it feels safer, but hurt is more vulnerable, and that's what you're striving for. When to say ouch for best results. Let's say my husband says something that hurts my feelings. That doesn't happen very often anymore, but it does occasionally, because that's just how it is when you're so close to someone. When my feelings are hurt, I just say ouch. That's all that's needed. He gets it. I don't have to go into a lengthy explanation about how that comment touches a sore spot for me, because my mother used to say things like that, and I wish he would be more sensitive, and on and on and on. I get the job done with just one impactful word. Sometimes when our students use the word ouch, they report back that it didn't work. Bonnie said that when she said it, her husband looked at her oddly and said, ouch, what's ouch? That's not an uncommon reaction when you first try it out. So ladies who are willing to experiment with ouch, just know that when you start with it, they're not going to understand, and it's okay. Since even a toddler understands the word ouch, we can be fairly certain that Bonnie's husband understood it too. So his reaction wasn't about not getting it, but about not liking it. That makes sense, because it was the first time Bonnie had said that, which means she was introducing a new way of conversing into the relationship. So you're going to say ouch, and he's going to say, what is that? Again, we're changing the dance, and they're going to feel like, what is this? What are these new steps? They might not like it. They might have a tantrum. If it feels uncomfortable, ladies, you're doing in the right direction. You're doing something different so they can get different results. It is going to feel uncomfortable. Just sit with it. Stay in that discomfort. Go into the darkness and turn on the switch. Experiment with doing things differently so that you can finally get different results. Part of her husband's reaction was to say, what are the steps of this new dance? Usually this is the part where you say something mean, like, what a jerk. And we bicker. I know those steps perfectly, right? So usually you would, instead of saying ouch, you would say, oh, you're such a jerk. You never, you're not sensitive to time. You're so slow, blah, blah, all these things, right? But instead of all of that, if I'm hurt because I wanted to be on time and we're not on time because, you know, whatever it is, ouch. But he's like, what do you mean? Like I'm so used to you calling me a jerk and like making me feel bad and whatever. You're changing the steps. What do you mean you're changing the steps? So he's gonna respond to it and he's gonna be confused and he might get angry even. Let him have that. You're not responsible for his feelings. Just notice that if it's different than your usual routine, that you're doing something right. And it's gonna take a couple of tries, but keep being consistent with it, and you're going to get the light at the end of the tunnel. Even though the old dance wasn't much fun for either Bonnie or her husband, they both knew how it went. So part of his reaction was in response to her changing it up. He may have also felt guilty or mad at himself for hurting. But so whenever we feel guilty or mad, it's so much easier to blame the other person or to make them feel those feelings than it is to sit with our own feelings. So if when we say ouch and our husband reacts with feeling guilty or whatever, he might try to, get us back into the old routine and pick a fight with us. Just duct tape and give yourself what you need in that time. Just speak to that little girl inside of you who's feeling hurt and give her what she wants. But since she didn't blame or shame him, there was nothing to defend himself against. The conversation at that point was only between him and his conscience, which may have been needling him for hurting her. So his own conscience was, kind of letting him know that you hurt her, and he was feeling that guilt or shame. And the usual way for her to respond is to make him feel guilty and ashamed. But she stepped back because she wants to change the dance, and she wants to change the way that they interact with each other. Ouch is great because it lets your husband know that you're hurt, but it doesn't say it's your fault or you did something wrong. Because the minute we use those words, guard goes up and we're back in the old dance. And since nobody's yelling at him or trying to control him, he has some freedom to think about if he maybe did say something unkind, whether he did or not. You're teaching him how to treat you. I used to talk for hours trying to get the same kind of reaction that I now get from a single ouch. I used to tell John exactly how he should say things to me. That's how controlling I was. His response would be to ignore me or tune me out or turn up the TV, none of which were what I wanted, of course. Now I almost always get a quick, heartfelt apology, like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you, or some other acknowledgement that I'm unhappy, which is all I ever wanted. Some women struggle with the vulnerability of ouch. Kristen said she didn't want to say ouch because it would let her husband know that he'd hit a tender spot. And she didn't want to let on that he'd hurt her, or that he'd found her Achilles heel. She worried that letting him know she was hurt would give him valuable information to what seemed like the enemy, and that it could be used against her. That's the danger of vulnerability. You're undefended and open. So what kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy is going to give you intimacy? My husband is my enemy, or it's me and my husband against the problem? It's not me versus my husband. It's me and we're on the same team, but we have this problem. So me saying ouch is letting him know my feelings are hurt, and I'm teaching him that, when you react this way or you act this way, it hurts me, and it's being open and vulnerable and letting him know that, ouch. And in time, because he doesn't feel controlled by you, and he has the freedom to choose to make you happy and to apologize and to make you feel, to give you that apology. But don't expect it. Don't expect them to apologize, especially right away. Once you say ouch, you're choosing to be vulnerable. And by choosing vulnerability, you're invoking a sacred trust. Nobody who loves you wants to violate that trust. They want to hold it in safe hands. But to invoke that sacred trust, you'll need to say ouch before the argument gets started. For instance, let's say your husband punches you verbally by saying, I don't understand why you're so tired all the time. All you do is stay home with the kids all day. That's when you would want to say, ouch. If you forget and respond instead by saying, maybe I wouldn't be tired all the time if you would lift a finger to help me out once in a while instead of playing video games all the time, you have now engaged in a battle. And insults are about to start flying back and forth. Suddenly, you remember to say ouch, but instead of apologizing or calming down, he comes right back at you and verbally punches you again. Then you might think, it's no use trying to be vulnerable with my husband. He'll just keep right on attacking me and I have to fight back to protect myself. The problem with the scenario is that you didn't say ouch until after you said something disrespectful and hurtful, it's gonna happen. It's okay. Just notice it, and especially in the beginning, it's gonna happen. You're gonna go back to your old patterns, but just noticing and choosing to do things differently, the situations are gonna come up. So he says something like, "Oh, why are you so tired? All you do is just be with the kids all day." Ouch, right away. So the next time a situation like that happens, try to nip it, and instead of disrespecting him and punching back, ouch. Suddenly remember to say ouch. The problem with this scenario is that you didn't say ouch until after you said something disrespectful and hurtful. So now his defenses are up too, and it's hard for him to see your vulnerability because he's peering out from behind his own fortress wall, thinking he's under attack. The path back to peace in your marriage now involves you making an apology. Ideally, you say ouch before you engage in a fight with him, so you preserve the peace, the intimacy, and your own dignity. If you engage in verbal brawl, you're saying, I don't need you to protect me. If you respond with authentic hurt and sadness first, the message is, I'm fragile and I need your protection. If you feel like your husband is controlling, this is a great way to teach him that you don't like being told what to do. If he tells you how to drive or how to cut the birthday cake, you can say, ouch, to let him know that doesn't feel good. You won't always remember to say ouch when you're hurt. As with saying, I miss you, it's vulnerable. And it may not always occur to you to say it in the moment. Fortunately, you don't have to do this perfectly. In fact, if you find yourself replaying a conversation you've had with your husband and thinking, I should have said ouch, that's progress. Next time, you probably will. So just give yourself a pat on the back for thinking that I should have said ouch. Ouch is also a good way to communicate with friends, family, and even coworkers. I said ouch to an old friend once when we were having a heated conversation about a business deal. He accused me of being vindictive. I said ouch and nothing more. His response was, why are you calling me a jerk? I said, I didn't call you a jerk. He said, you just said I attacked you. I said, all I said was ouch. He said, well, why are you saying ouch if you're not saying I attacked you? I don't see anybody else around here. At that point, I was feeling very dignified because I was staying on my side of the street. I felt clean. I said how I felt, but I didn't attack him. Moments later, he apologized for saying I was vindictive. Peace was restored and we both recovered quickly. One of my coaches says that when she started saying ouch in her marriage, her husband followed suit and started saying ouch too. It changed the whole culture in their home to truncate arguments with that one powerful word. So imagine if he says ouch instead of coming at you and attacking you, you'll know, oh, he feels hurt. And then you're like, oh, I said something. I'm sorry. I apologize. It wasn't my intention to hurt you. And that's it. It's squashed right there and intimacy restored. Saying ouch always works. Jill told me that saying ouch to her husband when he said something hurtful didn't work because when she said it, he didn't always say he was sorry. As with all the intimacy skills, saying ouch is about taking care of yourself and keeping your side of the street clean. You can't control the outcome, but you can avoid further conflict. Keep your dignity and feel better about yourself if you respond to a perceived attack without striking back. That's the big benefit of saying ouch. You may also get an apology, which is great, but that's a bonus. Don't expect an apology. Just by expressing how you felt, that's your investment. Like, that's your return on investment. Instead of suppressing it, saying ouch, it's expressing how you felt and being vulnerable. But don't expect an apology. If you do get an apology, great. If not, just, the freedom is in expressing your emotion. Remember, you can't control what your husband does, only what you do. Saying ouch certainly puts the odds in your favor that you will get an apology or some other tender reaction from the man who wants to make you happy and protect you. But you can't make him apologize. It wouldn't be all that meaningful if you could. But no matter what, you'll still get all the fringe benefits, harmony, peace, and intimacy that go along with expressing your feelings by saying ouch. Phone a friend when it hurts. So I love that she gives us like tools on how to self-regulate and we're going to have these emotions. We're humans, but she teaches us healthy ways to deal with our emotions instead of breaking our intimacy with our husband. What if the moment has passed and you didn't say ouch? You're replaying the incident over and over in your head because he was just so mean, but he doesn't even know what a jerk he was because you didn't react at the time. It's too late to say ouch because it's been hours or days or weeks. Now what? How do you let your husband know he hurt you? Instead of rehashing an old conversation, even if it was just yesterday, try letting the previous conversation go, but redoubling your efforts to say ouch in the moment going forward. Saying, the other day when you said I was always dropping things, that hurt my feelings, is not going to enhance your connection with your husband. So what's the point? Instead, vent to a girlfriend, sister, or a relationship coach. Having someone, and also make sure that when you're venting to someone, it's someone who is standing for your marriage, not someone who, when you're venting about your husband, says you need to get a divorce, he's the worst guy ever, he's such an a-hole, and all these different things. That's not your friend. That's not who you vent to. You vent to someone who stands for your marriage and who knows that it's just your outlet. It's not there to, say mean things about your husband and how terrible of a guy he is. So it's very important about who you vent to. Having someone other than your husband listen to you can go a long way towards soothing your pain, and it won't put any strain on your marriage or make your husband defensive. That said, not every girlfriend is a great yeah, see, I read this book so many times already. It's coming to me automatic. That said, not every girlfriend is a great option for that kind of conversation. Your single girlfriends won't have the perspective you're looking for, and anyone who's going through or recently went through a breakup might find it tempting to pile on about how irresponsible men are, or how selfish, or how cruel. You don't want this to turn into a male bashing session. Instead, you want to talk to someone who respects your husband and can listen without complaining about what a jerk he is. Your best bet for someone who will be able to listen without fanning the flames is a friend who has a similar mindset. I realize that's not always easy to find, which is one of the reasons I've helped bring together a worldwide community of women who are committed to practicing the intimacy skills. Sometimes you could be in our group and you could just ask someone, can you hold space for me? I really need to vent right now. And we can hold space for each other without bashing our husbands, just understanding that, right now, my sister, my soul sister who's working on the skills and trying to bring intimacy into her marriage just needs a listening ear. And, just being that vessel and allowing her to vent is so healing. So I really hope that we can create that space in our community and just saying, can I have a few minutes of your time? Can you please hold space for me? That would be really amazing if we could do that for each other. I realize that's not always easy to find, which is, so she created this amazing community that's called the Ridiculously Happy Wife. I was a part of it. It's incredible. You get group coaching and you just are around like-minded women who are on the path of growing and who are practicing the 6 intimacy skills. So I highly recommending that if you're in a space where, you need more support than what we offer in our group, I highly recommend joining the Ridiculously Happy Wife group. It is an investment, like a monetary investment, but the return on investment is incredible. Like-minded community is one of the 4 pillars of any connection framework. I found invaluable in my own journey of becoming a happy wife, for sure. It's not helpful for your connection with your husband to discuss with him your hurt or scared feelings about him, but your feelings do deserve airtime. So I invite you to honor and express those feelings somewhere else. The more you preserve the intimacy in your marriage by avoiding comments that are disrespectful to or critical of your husband, the less you're going to have those hurtful moments. This is why I love my journal. You know, as long as I express it, I express my feelings, and sometimes I'll write it out and I'll just like rip it apart and I'll throw it. As long as it's out of my body, you know, our hands are an extension of our heart. Like whenever we hold something in our heart, it feels heavy. So, but just by writing, and you could like visualize whatever hurt you're feeling, kind of like traveling through your hand into the pen and onto the paper, and like just releasing it. Or if you need to push a wall or hit a pillow, or if you have a punching bag in your house, go for it. You know, sometimes that way you're releasing whatever the emotion that you're feeling, and you get to preserve your intimacy. But if you are hurt, it is good to say ouch, because when you say ouch, you're letting him know this hurts me, and because he wants to make you happy, and without you kind of pushing him to defend himself, with time he'll know, oh, this is hurtful to her, and he's going to stop doing that. But again, it's a muscle. You know, it's something that we have to practice in order to get really good at it. That said, whenever I coach a woman on how to become more desired, cherished, and adored, we often start with talking about what isn't working, why she's not happy, and what she thinks needs to change. Usually, you know, when you start the journey, it's like he needs to change. Some women start off talking about what losers their husbands are, or how rude or how stubborn. It's okay in that context. Start with your pain points and work from there. You won't stay there, but you get to begin wherever you are. Jenna wanted help on how not to overreact to her husband. She felt that she was too sensitive and wanted to figure out a way to not be so easily hurt. But I don't know of a way to not feel what you feel. Even if I did, I don't think I'd be eager to recommend it. I don't see being sensitive as such a problem. I think it's a gift. We women are often very sensitive. Feeling hurt is not an overreaction. It's your reaction. When I'm hurt from an interaction with my husband and I forget to say ouch, I take my process somewhere else instead of to him, like to my sisters, girlfriends, or maybe tribe coaches. But at no point am I trying to just suck it up that I'm upset. That never works, right? When we suppress it, it just grows bigger and bigger. But when we don't express it, it grows bigger, and then it becomes into a bigger problem. What we resist persists. There's nothing in the intimacy skills that says to pretend you don't feel what you feel. I definitely don't want you to ignore your feelings. That's not what we do around here. When things come up, we talk about them. However, I do find that as time goes on and you get better and better at the intimacy skills, there just isn't that much to complain about anymore, because your perspective and your reality have changed. As you progress with practicing the intimacy skills, you'll typically forget what you used to be so unhappy about.
By the way, it's very true. I had to interrupt.
Thank you, Shashank. I second that. Why your mother-in-law gets better treatment than you. If you ever felt like you were in competition with your mother-in-law for your husband's help, attention, perhaps it's because his mom appears more vulnerable than you. If you're working, running the house like a tight ship, parenting the kids, and generally have everything under control, you may not appear to need any help. Complaining that you're tired, overworked, or resentful is not the same as being vulnerable. Quite the opposite, right? A complaint is a lazy desire. Letting him know you're having trouble keeping up and asking for help is vulnerable. But most of us hate to admit that, right? It's so much easier to just complain about what's not working than really getting in touch with how do I feel, what do I need, and expressing our desires and asking for help. His mom, however, may be expressing just those sentiments. He feels needed and purposeful when she wants him to install new bookshelves. When he runs over to help her, she probably expresses how very grateful she is. She makes him feel like a hero for coming to her aid. Every man likes to feel like a hero. If your husband is very attentive to his mother, it's a sign that he's loyal and loving. And those are wonderful qualities. It shouldn't mean you get less help or attention because he devotes so much to her. It may just mean that he feels more needed and more appreciated when he helps her. Right? Why do we do chesed outside of our home? Like I used to, if there's somebody in my neighborhood who would have a baby, I would like make them food and whatever, because when I would do that for them, they would appreciate it. When I do it for my family, I don't get a thank you. So I'm much more, it doesn't mean that I love my family less and I love them more. It just means that we're much more likely to give where it's received and where it's appreciated. So if we become that vessel of receiving and appreciating for our husbands, he's much more likely to show up as our hero, right? Chances are good he'd be happy to do the same for you if the invitation was extended with the same vulnerability and appreciation. And that is the end of chapter 19. All right, ladies. So I'm keeping the video on because people expressed that they enjoy tuning into our conversation. So are you guys all okay with that? Or you would prefer if I stop the recording? Just let me know. All right, so any questions? Actually, before we go on, I just wanted to add something that I just remembered. Last week, I connected the Empowered Wife teaching to the Purim story. So as we're reading the Megillah, Queen Esther asks Achashverosh, Mordechai tells her, go to Achashverosh and ask him, tell him that you're a Jew. And she tells him no. And she's like, I'm going to do it my own way. So she does it in a very divine feminine way, right? She dresses up in her beautiful, royal dress. So she looks really like royal and feminine. And she enters his chambers and she's a girl of fun and light. And what does he tell her? What do you want? I'll give you anything. I'll give you like all of my kingdoms, right? He's like, what is your desire? And she expresses her desire. She says, I would love for the king and Haman to have a Seuda with me. So I just love the way that as I was reading the Megillah, I was like, look at that. Like we learned it from Esther to, if you, and her having that party and having that ability to bring Achashverosh and Haman in the same room, she was able to save all the Jewish. She didn't want to do this. When Mordechai told her, you need to go into the palace, she was like, no, me, who me? She's like, I'm just like, who am I? But she went above her nature and she was able to bring down this miracle, not only for herself, but for all of her children and grandchildren and for all of us. We are here because of Esther, because of her ability to be in her divine feminine. And and every time like she would approach Achashverosh, he's like, what do you desire? He's like, I just want to be your hero, like just tell me what you want. And she would tell him exactly what she wants. It was just so beautiful to see that.
I think also the language that was used, like when you read it, it was like, if it pleases you, if I find favor in your eyes, and it was like, and you're like, okay,
I wrote it. I wrote it down last week. So she says, so she expresses her desire. Oh, so she also wanted an additional night, an additional day for the Jews to fight in the war. Right. So basically, by expressing her desire, she elevated herself And she also elevated Mordechai. Mordechai, who was like, she's like the feminine and he's like the masculine, right? She elevated him to be second to the throne. Mordechai wasn't like, they already prepared the gallows for him. But because Esther was able to use her divine femininity and express her desires, she was able to get what she wants. She saved the Jewish people and she elevated Mordechai to be second to the king.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah. So there was a quote that I read. It says, "My ego is in service of my soul, and I trust my soul's divine timing." So instead of our soul being the slave to the ego, which is like our reactions and like that natural way of reacting to a situation, instead of pause and making a choice. When we make a choice, we come from a place of neshama, then our ego is in service of our neshama. But when we respond from a place of anger or, disrespect, it's our neshama is kind of like a slave to our ego in that space. So also choosing that self-care is, making our ego slave to our neshama, because the ego will come in there and like make us feel guilty and have all these ways of, oh, I could be doing so many things. That's the ego. And then our neshama has to be a slave to the ego. But if I say, you know what, if I just pause right now and I give to myself because I'm drained and I'm going to, recharge my battery, then the ego, it becomes a slave to the neshama, because I'm choosing my neshama. I'm choosing to fill myself so that I could be more relaxed when I show up for my kids, when I show up for my husband. I have that intimacy, because that's what I really want. And that's what, bringing godliness into the earth, right?
It's so hard, like you say, like you slip up sometimes,
Yeah.
And sometimes you feel like, no, I'm okay. And then like it like catches up with you and you're like,
Yeah.
So like you said, I think it's a work in progress. And sometimes is better than some days are better.
And just noticing that and catching yourself and giving yourself love. It's like, I love you, no matter what. Instead of like, oh, I'm such a bad mom, or I'm such a bad wife, or like how much do we beat ourselves up? How many times during the day? But it's okay. Meaning like, just catch myself. Oh, look at that. I'm living that I'm being a slave to my ego right now. You know what? Take the key, open up the shackles. I love you. And I noticed it. And I'm gonna do better. Instead of like beating ourselves, like, what's my inner conversation? Whose voice is that? It's not in my voice. It's just the ego. All these like, and the Satan, the Yetzer Hara, it's not a bad thing. That Hashem put the Satan here, we wouldn't grow. If we only had light in this world, we wouldn't really have the free will to choose. There has to be light and dark. And then when we choose the light, that's where our growth happens. And the Satan is a good energy. It's not bad. We need the Yetzer Hara so that we can choose to align with our neshama. So we thank the ego. We say, thank you, but I don't need you right now. Take a back seat. My neshama's in the driver's seat. You can be a slave to my neshama today. Yeah. But it all starts, the first step is awareness. Yeah.
Do you recommend the journal?
Yes, absolutely. The journal is amazing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I just ordered it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I love it. It's an awesome guide. I see Royzy. Royzy, am I saying your name right? Royzy?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, thank
Hi.
you. So I just wanted to touch on what you said in the beginning about like showing your emotions to your kids. I currently have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And my 4-year-old, he's a boy, and his teacher called me one day and she's like, "What are you doing? Like, we all need to learn what you're doing." I'm like, literally just being honest with him. Like, mommy needs space and that's okay. So let's give mommy space. Or like, do you need space? We can shut the music, whatever it is that's like overstimulating you. And like my daughter's learning from it, obviously the 2-year-old.
Mhm.
So that's just really important. And then another thing that I wanted to ask you, you touched on like somatic. What's your take on craniosacral therapy?
I've heard it. I don't know. I really, I don't know. I can't tell you about it because I don't know. Someone else asked me about some kind of other energy healing that I'm not aware. If I'm not aware of it, I don't want to give you any information. I don't know. I
Got
could
it.
look
Okay.
it up, but I don't know.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. But I've done a lot. I've done breath work. I've done somatic. I've done energy work. So that I could definitely share with you on. But the craniosacral, I haven't. I'm not familiar with.
Okay, thank you.
It's very possible that I have done it. I just don't know the name of it. So I have
It's
to.
it's like very light touches, and it's basically like you were saying how like if you write something down, you're like to kind of sort of like see that the energy is like going through your hand to the pen to the
Mhm.
paper, and then you're ripping up the paper. So it's like the stored trauma, like it could be past trauma
Mhm.
or even current stuff. And
Mhm.
it's just your body bringing it out. Like people that have, like, of course, there's the medical aspect to like, let's say like cardiac issues or anything like that, but there
Right.
could be parts of it that are like stored trauma, and
Right.
it's just really like it's just interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And can I tell you something? Underneath the medical issue, there's always an emotional issue. And usually
Right.
heart stuff is like related to family.
Right. Right.
So if there's any family trauma, it's usually stored in the heart. And if you really look beneath the surface, we usually find the emotions that are stored in that. Yeah.
Mhm.
See, now you got me curious. Now I'm gonna look into it because I want to
It's
try.
really good. I have someone really good in Brooklyn if you want.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, ladies, any more questions? Comments?
Thank you, Irina.
You're welcome, my loves. I want to actually share something. I had a dream last night, and you know how like when we're in the womb and the malach kind of like teaches us all the Torah that we need to know. So I kind of had like this experience where I was being taught, you know, like what I needed, the Torah that I need to know. And I woke up and I still remembered. So I was like, it was so good. I shared it with my husband. I shared it with my friend today. I shared it with my son, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna bring it to my class. Whoever needs to hear it will hear it. So you know how in Pirkei Avot, it says the world stands on 3 pillars: Torah, Avodah, Maasim Tovim, right? Shlosha devarim ha'olam omed. Torah, Avodah, and Milut Chasadim. So the teaching that I got in my dream was that we have in this world, to what do we all want? We all want to be happy. We all want to have inner peace, right? So how do we get to that inner peace? So Hashem gave us the Torah. The Torah is a manuscript. It's a map for how to get to, inner peace, right? But there's a lot of people, they learn the Torah, but they don't practice it. If you learn, if you have knowledge, like you go to medical school, you learn, but you're not a doctor, then what's the point of the knowledge, right? Like if you just know something but you don't apply it, you don't practice it, it's useless. So then the avodah is the part of the practicing, is the applying of the knowledge, right? The Torah is the chokhmah, bina, and da'at, and there's the avodah, is the actual practicing of what we learn. And then there's the gmilut chasadim, is that when we learn and then we practice, we become godly in this world and we bring down chesed. So, but chesed starts at home, right? Chesed starts at home. Where's the first home is like our inner home, the chesed that's inside of us. So the Torah teaches ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. It's first we have to love ourselves, right? Be kind to ourselves, give chesed to ourselves, and then we bring down that chesed from Hashem. And when there's inner chesed and we radiate chesed on the outside, we become a vessel for godliness in this world. And that's basically the purpose of why we're here. So yeah, just wanted to give that over. Yeah. Yeah, it was very powerful. So that is that, ladies. And we're gonna end on that note. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to hear your wins with being vulnerable, with saying ouch instead of reacting. And yeah, let's practice those skills. Let's, bring down miracles. All right,
Thank you
ladies.
so much.
My pleasure. Have a good night.